welcome everybody. Welcome to the JBQ Quiz Talk podcast. My name is Dan Anderson. I'm your host. Tonight's episode of the JBQ Quiz Talk podcast is all about inspiring families to consider short-term mission trips with their quizzers. Yes, we're talking about missions and JBQ in the same sentence. I didn't think that was possible years ago, but we are. And our special guest tonight will be talking with Brian King, a seasoned, I like that, like a steak. I like a good seasoned steak. A seasoned JBQ leader with nearly 40 years of experience. I'm never going to get caught up with you, Brian, who's dedicated his life and his wife's life and his family's life to taking JBQ and marriage encounters and marriage seminars across the globe. Brian, along with Mike Teeter, is passionate about encouraging families to embark on missions trips with their children, making unforgettable memories while sharing the good news. Brian has recently introduced JBQ into his sixth country, and tonight he'll share, that's Namibia. Yeah,
Namibia.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we'll let you talk in a minute. And tonight we'll share his powerful experiences he's had and the vision that he and Mike are pursuing and the lasting impact JBQ missions can have on families and communities alike. I write that stuff and then I'm like, wow. So anyway, I've come a long way. My son would be impressed with my my writing abilities. Not that he watches the JBQ. The younger ones do, but not the older ones. So we won't mention any names, Zachary. All right, Brian, welcome.
It's good to be here, Dan.
Great to have you on. Yes, I'm glad. I'm excited to have you. So so grateful to have you on here tonight. Michael is here, but Michael is more an observer tonight. Michael, we'll let you say hi. Say hi, Michael. No, we didn't glitch out. Michael, say hi. There you go.
Hi.
All right. Hey.
Good to be on tonight.
Thank you, Michael. We're going to have Michael on in the future. Michael will have his own episode, and we'll talk a little bit more about what Michael's doing. In all fairness, we're giving Michael a little bit more time. He's been working on some stuff, and he could probably easily handle a podcast, but we'll give him a little bit more time in planning. I kind of wanted to begin to generate some interest and questions and discussion about what JBQ missions looks like. And so with that, Brian, probably a great way to segue into some of your questions. All right. So I think the first question about this is, let me find my questions. What inspired you to go on your first JBQ missions trip? And was it even considered that? What led you say, hey, I'm going to go do this? I can't make any assumptions.
Well, and for me, it was really simple. I've been involved with Junior Bible Quiz, as you said, for nearly 40 years. Just developed an incredible passion for it. Love to do anything involved with it. But it was at the 2005 National Festival, we were made aware of a missionary in Russia that was asking about starting Junior Bible Quiz. And as soon as I heard that, I knew that that was something that I needed to do. And by the end of the year, I went on my first JBQ missions trip to Siberia.
Now, I do know a little bit. So up until that point, were you not, I love saying this word, a pescatarian at that point? Yes, right?
That is true, yes.
And you opted to give up, you returned to eating meat when you traveled to Siberia, is that correct?
That I had to do that, yes.
Wow, and you're still eating meat today?
Well, it works better because I'm going on a lot of missions trips now.
Well, let's not jump ahead, all right? So
yeah.
So that was the beginning. How did that first trip go? I know I'm going off script here, but we got a little time.
So, well, we landed in Siberia the end of October, maybe it was the first week in November, and it was already down below 10 degrees Fahrenheit. They got a reputation and they keep it.
Wow. That's a little bitter cold. Yeah.
And that first trip, I actually brought my oldest son with me to join me on that trip.
So Troy went with you?
Troy went with me that year.
That's good. Does he talk about that much?
He has in the past, but he's kind of busy with his own missions work these days, so he doesn't talk about that one as much anymore.
Yes, sir. Well, that's good. Tell me, can you share some of the most memorable and impactful moments from your experiences leading Bible Quiz missions trips?
Some of the best things are First of all, I've taken 3 of my children with me on JBQ missions trips. I've taken my wife with me on a few of them. I've taken my mother with me on one of my JBQ missions trips. But to see the development of JBQ in some of these countries has been really amazing. When I first went to Romania, they had already been introduced to it, but there were certain things that I was kind of able to help them fine tune. And it's been really neat in recent years as I've gone back to see the development and the steps that they've gone through to continue to grow the program.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just this week, we had someone reach out, like you said, the very first time you became aware of it was at the National Festival, but right on the Bible Strong Facebook page, someone from the Czech Republic reached out asking for help to start Bible Quiz JBQ in their country. So I think that's awesome. And I think that one of the reasons that we even have you on here tonight is because I think there is definite need. We've been talking about this for 3 years, and sometimes things you need to have a little bit of a foundation in place, and God kind of takes you 2 steps forward, and sometimes you got to take a step back and reorganize. But we're seeing some real interest, so I think that's exciting. How about biggest challenge, Brian? Again, going off script here, what's been your biggest challenge on these trips? Or is there one catastrophe or something that sticks out in your mind? Yeah, you got the grin there. Yeah.
Well, there have been some challenges, but some of the challenges that you have to recognize is, first of all, where are these other nations at economically to make JBQ viable? For example, Romania is not a strong economy like some other European nations. So they've had to make some adaptations. But then, having been in Africa, I've been in a couple of different environments in Africa now, one of which is pretty much a third world country. Traveling more than a half hour or an hour is extremely difficult. So you have to learn how to adapt to the needs of the country that you're in.
Okay, that's good. So there are some countries that are probably very family friendly, and others that maybe you wouldn't take young quizzers with you on.
There's a few places that would make it a challenge. Yes.
Okay, that's good. So with that in mind, let's segue to my next question. What advice do you have for families looking to get involved in the Bible quiz missions trips and make the most of the experience for them?
Really, some of the best things that you can do is to find somebody that's already over there, a missionary working in a place. And, if they have any interest in doing Bible quiz in the place where they're at, learn how to work with that missionary to accomplish the goals that they're trying to reach instead of forcing yourself to do what you think needs to be done. One of the mistakes that I made in Russia, and I was there 3 times, the missionary there was never going to take JBQ as the primary ministry that she was doing. But instead of working at developing leaders in Russia, I developed interest in individual churches. And when that missionary left Russia, JBQ was gone because there were no leaders that were developed. So I needed to reach out and develop leaders. And that's one of the things that I've been learning in recent years.
That's good. And that's really what the folks that, in Belize, the recent conversation we had about a missions trip to Belize, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for you to train up and raise up leaders. So that's good. Michael had made a comment in here, the heart of JBQ, that not the method, but the discipleship aspect is key. It's important to everybody, right? It's not just important to quizzers, but in America, it's important to quizzers in Russia and Belize and wherever. And yeah, that's a great comment, Michael. Former quizzers do make great missionaries, like Troy King is a great missionary. Now fully appointed now, going.
Yes.
All right, good job. And is he stateside, right? Itinerating?
He's currently stateside itinerating in his district.
Yeah. So you were in Africa and Troy was here. There's a switch for you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's good. So there's opportunities for quizzers. It's not just, we're not looking to take just active quizzers. We can obviously take teen quizzers. We can take former quizzers. And Yeah, and Michael's daughter Caitlin feels called to be a missionary too. So it's what a great way to segue the head knowledge and the discipleship and providing an opportunity for them to be, if they're called into the missions, to be able to go that direction. Um, okay, so here's the question: what countries have you gone on mission trips to?
The first place I went to was Russia,
Mhm.
2005, 6, and 7, 3 consecutive years. There was a gap there, and then I went to Romania in 2012, again with Troy, and then my youngest son, Justin. And then beginning in 2018, I think I've taken at least 2 trips a year, with the exception of the COVID year. 2018, I went to Zambia. I also was in Romania again, I think 18 and 19 or 19 and 20. I'm losing track of where I'm going all the time. But in between, I've also been into the European nations of the Czech Republic and Hungary. And then just yesterday, I returned from a trip to Zambia and Namibia down in Southern Africa.
Can you tell us, because you went to, when you went to Zambia, you had no intention of going to Namibia, right?
Uh,
Or
well,
you had,
Namibia was something that came up recently because my church has a satellite campus in Namibia, and I got to meet the pastor and talking with him when he came to the States. He's a U.S. missions uh, appointee, and asked me to come there to do my marriage conference. When I mentioned JBQ, it worked out that I was able to do 2 JBQ demonstrations, and now both of those churches want me to come back next year to start doing a little bit more work with JBQ.
we need some more coordinators, more Bible quiz missions coordinators is something that we need to do more of. That's great. Um, I think what the biggest question I have is what's the heart of, and maybe Michael, you can chime in. What do you think the main goal of Bible quiz missions is going to be? What do you guys think would be the best goal?
The best goal, the whole point of JBQ or Teen Quiz is to disciple families to the point where they're growing and walking by faith, not by sight. We want to see people come to know Jesus and to align with him and his word. And when we create a culture that loves the word of God and loves the spirit of God, then we see the work of God resulting in the fruit of God. And that's really the whole point. That's why we do it.
Yeah, I mean it's got the same feel that that really any ministry, any church has. So the goal is remains the same, right? The Great Commission, and how can we work hand in hand with that? So I've got to believe that in the process of discipleship there is opportunities. One of the things that we talk about in discipleship is the ability to be able to get our kids into service, right? Not necessarily something that we do, that we want them as inexpensive labor to help us, but something that they're excited about also. And I think that goal is great for the United States, but that goal is also great for, Zambia and Romania and Russia and Belize and, all over. And so, to go in there and try to work with the local church in those countries is really fundamental. And that's where I see us going. I mean, missionaries, um, I think, U.S. foreign missionaries working in country are intrigued by the opportunity to be able to use Bible quiz to reach their community. And when we talk about the conversation we had with Belize recently, I mean, they want to use um, Bible quiz as a way to spark fellowship between the different churches in Belize and to be able to do that fellowship. And we've all experienced that too, whether it's teams meeting in your local area, just getting all the churches from Central Florida together, or going to your district meet and meeting all the teams from North Carolina, and then the regional and the national events where we begin to build fellowships and friendships. I mean, you got a guy on here from Oklahoma and two from North Carolina and one from Florida, Tennessee. So I think it's a great opportunity to do that in those countries as well. And so I'm excited about it. Um, Brian, what's next for you? What's next on your agenda? You said you usually take 2 trips a year. So what's up with you? What are you working on?
Well, you've already alluded to conversations that have begun with the nation of Belize and a missionary that's living and working there. So we're looking at the possibility of making a trip there to begin something. And then after having returned from Namibia now, there's definitely an open door there. And then, of course, the person that I worked with in Hungary, very interested in seeing it happen. Unfortunately, he's leaving the mission field, or at least he's leaving the foreign mission field. So he's working on trying to get some contacts in Hungary before he actually leaves for me to come back there and help them actually develop and start the ministry. Because the people there, once they saw what it looked like, were very interested because they see the value of learning the Word of God in a format that encourages fellowship and getting to know people and people outside of your own church or outside of your own group.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And so you're just more connecting. So I think that's really what we can do a little bit better job of is connecting. And so my heart with JBQ missions is this, is that I'd like to see teams of people be able to go, right? To be able to have someone with Brian's experience or Michael's experience, be the lead and take groups of individuals, whether, from wherever they're at, wherever church wants to participate or districts, or it could be a district event or whatever, where they band together, or in our case, the Southeast region may choose to do something along those lines. But I think as we move forward, I think we need to let people know that, number one, that this is something that they can do. It's no different than going on a short-term mission trip to build a church, or to go, work on a project, or or do street ministry or whatever. And some of that may be included when we go. Like Brian had mentioned, he'll go and do JBQ, and then he'll do marriage conference at the same time. And so
Yep.
it could be a multifaceted trip. Um, but connecting with Michael and connecting with Brian are important. Let me ask you, Brian, what are some things that people can do? If I'm listening to this for the first time, what can I do to get more involved in JBQ missions?
Well, because there are other people. You and I are aware of other people that are going on Bible quiz missions trips. And having taken an entire team to Zambia once, I had about 6 other people come with me once. I've had former quizzers, my own kids, and then other adults that are involved in Bible quiz ministry. When you can find a way to connect with people, and then there's a group of people that have a common mission working together, everybody doing their part, you can really do a lot of good for the local churches and the local fellowships in these foreign countries to develop a ministry such as this. So it's really partly finding people. You talked about connecting. There's people doing the work, and if you can connect with them and find out ways, like, because once, for example, once I start something in Namibia, I'll be looking to take a team to help me run some of their first couple of meets as we train the leadership. But we also have to train the officials and the coaches, and that's where a team of people can come in real handy. And having former quizzers, they can actually interact with the kids. I've had a lot of good experience with my kids and the 2 quizzers I've taken outside of my family. Really beneficial.
Good. That's good. And not everything has to be, maybe going to Namibia might be a bit daunting for some, but there are some practical things people can the missionary from Belize was looking for quiz boxes, used
Yeah.
old judge quiz boxes, or inexpensive items, or old quiz books, NIV is still looking for NIV. I think most of the NIV book study guides in America are now in Africa, but did they go to Kenya? Right. They went to Kenya, I believe, right?
I took a bunch of them to Zambia.
Oh, Zambia. Okay, that's where it was. Yeah. All right, good. So there are practical things, and we've worked and coordinated with some district JBQ coordinators to try to get some resources met. So there are a lot of different opportunities. It's not just, packing my bags and hitting the road, and there are costs, right? There can be cash donations, people looking for some of these missionaries would just like to be able to, it's a lot less expensive for them to buy materials in country than have us ship them. There are tariffs and there are limitations to what Brian can take with him on the airplane. So it's a lot better sometimes to ship or buy in country. Fly swatters, big item in some of these areas. I think again, the Belize had used fly swatters.
If I can speak to that for a minute, Dan,
Absolutely.
one of the things I mentioned before is being aware of the situation that you're going to. And one of the mistakes that I feel that I made was introducing quiz boxes into Zambia. I had to buy them, I had to bring them, and then leave it with them in nation. And as JBQ grows, there's no way I can keep up with the demand of quiz boxes, but they don't have the wherewithal to fix them, maintain them, and to buy their own. Quite frankly, I feel like I made a mistake in Zambia because it's not really feasible for them to get quiz boxes and to buy them. I wish I had gotten them started on fly swatters.
Yeah.
Some nations really can do it. Romania, however, is one example. They made the decision years ago they weren't going to use quiz boxes because it's not possible in every part of the country to use them. And they have been very successful with the fly swatters. And I feel like Zambia would have been better off if I would have never given them the quiz boxes. And that's where you have to really know the people that you're going to be with.
Yeah.
And that was one of the mistakes I made.
That's good. Excellent point. I know we only have a couple of guests, but if our guests have any questions for Brian King and JBQ missions, or you're interested about the history, Brian has a question. Larry has a question for you, Brian. Are you using local languages, or are you predominantly using English?
In Africa, the nations that I've been in use English. Some of them it's a second language, but they're pretty good at it. So we use English there. In the European nations I've been to, we are using the local languages because it works better for them. And that's another thing is licensing agreements with the Assemblies of God is important if you're going to use a different language. And there are ways to get that accomplished, but they have that fully licensed in the Czech Republic and in Romania now.
And then as Michael Teeter found out, Michael was able to, after I told him, I said I didn't think it was ready. Michael went ahead, I think maybe Beth did. Beth Barnes from North Carolina had approached the My Healthy Church and purchased the brand new NLT Spanish edition of the Bible, Fact Pack, and was able to get it. So I believe Michael, in Dominica, is that where you've done some work already, Michael?
Yes, Dominican Republic. So it's a missionary couple friend that been there about 30 years. So they have a pretty big Spanish English school, and then they have 15 Haitian schools. So it's Haitians that have crossed the border and they had started some schools.
Okay.
So for the Creole, that's the language. I actually had someone translate for them, a pastor that was a translator. And then you are correct. We did take, I don't know, about, I think between us and someone that we had at church, probably about 15 Spanish books, but then I took about maybe 8 English.
Okay.
And then we did find out that the Spanish book was missing one question, but I think it was getting fixed. But overall, as far as the school, they're using the NLT and the way it is.
Okay, good deal. And Larry, let me get you to weigh in on this. So Larry's like, "Whoa, what question are you going to ask me?" You've done some work as far as providing questions for folks, and so in what languages have you provided those, Larry?
Well, it wasn't providing questions.
Well, information.
Yeah, John Widener and I was working with him to try to create something to generate sets, and we had it working for Romania, but Travis Corbell was there at the time, and I don't think he's there anymore. But we had it set up so that you could actually take the text and he could generate sets off of a simple web page that we'd put together online. And I think when he left it kind of died because I noticed the last time I looked at it, it wasn't working. Got with John Widener to try to get things back in order, and he did, but I don't know who to contact or how to help them. But it does a really nice job of, if you've got the questions already translated into another language, you can easily just copy it into the web page and generate sets of questions however you want. So, but
And I'll weigh in with a little bit of information I always think is rather interesting is that I contacted, if you don't know, the inventor or the builder of the Grass Lake quiz box, Brian McKevitt, out of Grass Lake, Minnesota, sold boxes literally around the world. And so I thought I asked him, and he was able to let me know the invoices and who they went to. So I was able to create a list of missionaries, and we did reach out to them, and some of them are on the JBQ International Facebook group, and I know that we sent he sent quiz boxes to Israel and France and Belgium and England and multiple Argentina and Chile and in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia. And so I know that they're missionaries buying these quiz boxes, and they're probably introducing Bible quiz to their students and their kids right there in country. And so I think maybe like the Lord does, he just sometimes does a work and people start running with it. And I think that we should probably try to work together and try to get more families involved in this and be able to kind of help these missionaries where we can and kind of partner with them. So I'm going to give the group just a couple of them. Any last questions, or do you all have questions for me or each other that you'd like to chime in and ask? Go ahead and ask those. It has been a pleasure to be with Brian King tonight. Brian, having been up since 2 a.m. this morning with a couple of naps, but I think he's done well. How many hours was that traveling? I think, did you say 60 or 16?
Well, the total travel time is quite a bit, but the single flight from Johannesburg to Atlanta is about a 16-hour flight. But then there's a bunch of other flights jumping around from place to place in Africa. So it kept us busy for quite a while.
16 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, it's the longest flight that Delta has anywhere in the world, from Atlanta, Georgia to Johannesburg, South Africa.
You eat more than once on that flight, right? They bring in your food every 4 or 5 hours?
You get 2 full meals and 1 snack.
In 16 hours?
Yeah.
well, you're expected to eat before and after you get off the plane.
Yeah.
I guess so. I guess so. And you're not stopping, are you? Is that nonstop from Johannesburg to Atlanta?
Yeah, nonstop, 16 hours.
All right. Did I tell you about me and foreign missions? Now you know.
Man,
All right.
call for the cause, Dan. Come on, man.
Yeah, I'm traveling to Memphis, Tennessee tomorrow. That's long enough for this boy. All right. Well, if there are no more, oh wait, I have fly swatters in my room, and I had 2 JBQ missionaries from Romania. Oh, that's awesome, Rita. That's good. Yeah, and the kids like doing the fly swatters. You know, when I threaten at quiz matches that if I don't get enough officials or get enough quiz boxes, which I've done before, been known to do, Southeast Regional, that I'll put fly swatters in the room. Kids love the idea. They never complain. Like, cool, let's do it. But the coaches and officials don't care much for it. So thanks for that information, Rita. That's awesome.
I think we had to resort to something like that for novice last month. We didn't have enough quiz boxes. Something like that. Yeah.
In North Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did that. We did that once during a practice, and they were cheap fly swatters. And by the end of the match, 2 of them were destroyed. So
That's why we still need fly swatters.
Do you just give them 1 fly swatter per match? Is that it? If they like ruin it, that's it. They're done.
it's a quiz out. Yeah.
That's good. All right. Well, folks, I appreciate your time. Again, this is a real great opportunity to have Brian on here, and we'll have Brian and Michael back on. Always great to have Larry Mullins on. He's becoming kind of the co-host here. And I think that's great. Make sure that you like and subscribe on the button that you'll see here momentarily in the video. I am excited about the direction we're going in. We've got some great guests coming up. I think we got Luke Ertzberger going to be on here shortly. That I think he's on next week. Talk about Kahoot and where Kahoot's going. And we might even play Kahoot. Who knows? Might talk to Luke. He might be interested to have him on there. But again, folks, if you could be praying for this ministry, for the JBQ Quiz Talk podcast, this is a long-term commitment that we're making. I literally built a built-in desk here in my office so that I can get better lighting, and I'm working. Every time I cut a video, they get a little better. Every once in a while, they're a little worse. Sometimes I don't always send the link out in the email, but we are working. So I'm always looking for volunteers. If there's anybody that would like to help partner with this ministry and become maybe a little more tech savvy or has some time to do some editing, that would be great. But God bless you. Great to have you on here. I'm going to go ahead and end the podcast now. Thank you for your time, and God bless you.